If you've ever felt a chill run down your spine at stories of lost civilizations, strange artifacts that make us question history, or mysterious traces lying silent beneath the dust of ages, then you're in the right place. Today, we'll take you on a journey into unsolved riddles from ancient structures hidden deep in the desert to secret symbols that have rested quietly for thousands of years. Get ready to ask questions and let your imagination soar as we explore mysteries that, to this day, no one has been able to explain. So fasten your seatbelt as we dive into today's mystery. But first, you'll have incredible luck if you like and subscribe before this video ends. The mystery of the Lovelock cave giants. Thousands of years ago, in the arid deserts of Nevada, the Paiute people passed down a strange legend about a tribe of red-haired giants known as the Sai-Te-Ka. According to their stories, these giants were fierce and terrifying, spreading fear throughout the land by hunting and eating people. To put an end to this nightmare, the local tribes joined forces to drive the giants into a cave and smoked them out until they were all destroyed. For centuries, this remained just an oral tale until archaeological discoveries in Lovelock Cave made people begin to wonder if there might be some truth to the legend. In 1911, two miners, David Pugh and James Hart, were digging in the cave to collect bat guano for fertilizer, but instead of just bat droppings, they uncovered thousands of strange artifacts, including woven baskets, bird traps, and oversized sandals up to 15 inches long. An official excavation took place a year later, led by Llewellyn Loud from the University of California. He and his team collected more than 10,000 artifacts, including human bones. Early reports even mentioned very large skeletons and mummified remains with red hair, some standing over 6.5 feet tall. This sparked renewed interest in the stories of giants. However, most of those large skeletons later vanished, leaving behind more questions than answers. Lovelock Cave truly is an archaeological treasure trove, but it is also a deep mystery. The cave stretches more than 150 feet in length and is about 30 feet wide. Archaeologists found giant sandals, a huge handprint pressed into stone, and signs of fire near the entrance, all details that match the Paiute legend of burning out the Sai-Te-Ka. Some of the red-haired mummies, a female about 6.5 feet tall, a male even taller, were referenced in early reports, but modern scientists believe the red hair could be the result of mineral staining or oxidation over time, and that the actual height of the skeletons was closer to 5 feet 11 inches tall, but not exactly gigantic. The process of unraveling the Lovelock mystery has taken centuries and remains filled with controversy. The 1912 excavation was poorly documented and many artifacts were lost or ended up in private collections. Later studies confirmed that the cave was used continuously from about 1500 BCE until as late as 440 CE, and that the world's oldest duck decoys were found here. Modern DNA testing showed that some of the human bones had Eurasian origins, but found no proof of giants. The large skeletons that were once displayed at the Humboldt Museum have since been reburied out of respect for native peoples, making further research nearly impossible. Many theories have been offered to explain the legend of the Sai-Te-Ka. Scientists believe the ancient Lovelock people were simply taller than the average Paiute due to better nutrition, and that red hair can occur naturally or as a result of environmental conditions. The 15-inch sandals could have belonged to someone nearly 2 meters tall, or perhaps the story was simply exaggerated over time. Some historians and believers insist the evidence of burning and red hair is genuine, while others even connect the Sai-Te-Ka to the Nephilim of the Bible or to extraterrestrials. Yet no scientific evidence has ever confirmed these ideas. Whether legend or based in fact, the Lovelock giants remain a powerful reminder of the strength of folklore. If the Sai-Te-Ka once existed, they show us just how diverse and mysterious ancient humanity could be. And if they are only myth, their story still reflects the Paiute people's fears of a powerful enemy. The mystery of the White Shaman Rock. Thousands of years ago, on the sun-baked limestone cliffs where the Pecos River meets the Rio Grande, ancient bands of hunter-gatherers left behind mysterious marks on the rock walls of the lower Pecos Canyonlands. Among more than 300 sites featuring rock art in this region, the White Shaman Rock Shelter stands out like a hidden gem in the desert. Nestled in a small rock alcove just a few yards above the ground, this mural, 26 feet long and 13 feet high, is a dense tapestry of human and animal figures, as well as abstract symbols. When the sun sets, warm colors seem to ignite on the stone, while the moonlight brings out the pale figure of a headless character known as the White Shaman. This painting belongs to the Pecos River style, created sometime between 2500 BCE and 500 CE. For decades, archaeologists were baffled by the true meaning behind these strange images. Some believed the mural was the work of shamans, depicting mystical visions or experiences from rituals involving the mescal plant. But in 1989, artist Carolyn Boyd entered the rock shelter and instantly felt that these markings were far from random. To Boyd, the white shaman was a carefully constructed story, no different from a modern mural. Pulled in by the mystery, Boyd left her career as a painter to become an archaeologist, devoting nearly 30 years of her life to decoding the secrets of the white shaman. Getting to this site is no simple feat. You have to cross the Chihuahuan Desert, hike over a mile and a half, and descend a rocky slope nearly 250 feet high, under the scorching sun, which can reach 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Only the truly passionate make the journey all the way out here. But when you finally stand before the mural, all the exhaustion melts away. The figures, some as tall as 20 feet, others just tiny lines, seem to be telling a story that stretches beyond time. One visitor once said, "It feels as if I can hear the whispers of ancient people echoing through this canyon." After years of research, Boyd came to believe that the White Shaman mural is not just a work of art, but a story about the birth of the sun and the beginning of time itself. In her 2016 book, The White Shaman Mural, she proposed that the symbols carved into the rock reflect the beliefs of the Uto-Aztecan peoples, ancestors of tribes like the Huichol and Nahua in Mexico. The biggest clue came from a Huichol shaman who wept when he saw the mural, recognizing in it the creation myth of his own people. Symbols like the winding snake, representing the border between the material and spiritual worlds, or the figures wearing feathered headdresses that show the shaman's journey. These elements have been passed down on stone for 4,000 years, making the White Shaman one of the oldest pictorial records in North America. Still, not everyone agrees with Boyd's interpretation. Some archaeologists suggest these images may relate to hunting rituals or serve as displays of power by shamans within the community. Others warn that applying modern mythology to ancient art could distort its true meaning. Yet, even the most skeptical have to admit that this is a one-of-a-kind treasure, and that the White Shaman is a special part of this land's heritage. Today, the White Shaman mural is protected by the Witte Museum and the Shumla Archaeological Research Center, both established by Boyd herself. Tours run from September to May, drawing explorers willing to face the elements just for a glimpse of this masterpiece. And even as science advances, the mystery of the White Shaman remains. Do we truly understand the story these ancient people wanted to tell, or are we only brushing the surface of a world that has long since disappeared? The mystery of the Baigong pipes. In 1996, in a remote region near the city of Delinga in Qinghai Province, China, a writer named Bai Yu made a strange discovery while exploring the Baigong Mountains. As he was walking along a cliff, he happened to spot a triangular cave about 6 meters high, as if it had been carefully carved out by someone. When he stepped inside, he couldn't believe his eyes. Scattered across the stone floor and walls were numerous rust-colored metal pipes, ranging in diameter from just a few millimeters to nearly 40 centimeters. Some of these pipes extended outside the cave, running along the mountainside and stretching all the way to the shore of Lake Tosan, a saltwater lake about 80 meters away. At first glance, it seemed like some sort of system that had been deliberately arranged. What made the discovery even more surprising was the setting. The area is isolated, arid, and sits at an altitude of nearly 2,800 meters. Archaeologists noted that there were virtually no traces of human habitation in this region for tens of thousands of years. That made the presence of these metal pipes all the more mysterious. After Chinese media reported on the find in 2002, a wave of scientists began to investigate. The Beijing Institute of Geology collected pipe samples for analysis. Tests showed that the pipes were composed mainly of iron oxide, with about 8% of their material being unidentified. Even more remarkable, dating methods suggested these pipes could have formed as far back as 150,000 years ago, a time when humanity had only just discovered fire and used the simplest tools. No one could explain why such a complex iron pipe system existed in a place with no trace of ancient metallurgy. Many theories have been proposed. Some believe these are remnants of a lost ancient civilization, or even the product of extraterrestrials. The reason is that the area features a mountain shaped like a pyramid, right next to a vast salt lake, two details that make people think of some hidden base. Some have even suggested that these pipes are UFO technology left behind on Earth. However, scientists have put forward simpler explanations. Some studies revealed traces of plant matter and growth rings inside the pipes. According to this theory, the pipes could simply be fossils of ancient tree roots that gradually became mineralized over time thanks to the region's unique iron-rich environment. In fact, similar phenomena have been recorded in Louisiana, where fossilized tree roots were found encased in metal shells. Other surveys found the pipes contained a high amount of carbon and other mineral traces, supporting this natural explanation. Still, not everyone is convinced. Why are the pipes so uniform in size and arranged like an engineered system? Why do they exist in a place that was once an ancient wetland but is now bone dry? There's also that 8% of unidentified material, and some samples even showed traces of mild radioactivity. More than 20 years have passed since the discovery, and the mystery of the Baigong pipes remains unsolved. The site has become a tourist attraction, though its remote location and proximity to a military area have limited research opportunities. Some geologists believe the real answer lies in the complex geological history of the Qinghai Plateau, where ancient floods may have left behind layers of iron-rich sediment. But for mystery lovers, the Baigong pipes remain a reminder that there are still countless things about our planet that we have yet to understand. Are these natural fossils or evidence of a lost civilization? The mystery of the Rapa Nui Moai statues. Rapa Nui, also known as Easter Island, is a small island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, more than 2,300 miles from mainland Chile. It's considered the most isolated inhabited place on Earth, measuring just about 14 miles long and 7 miles wide. Yet in this vast remote ocean, the people of Rapa Nui left behind one of humanity's greatest mysteries, nearly 1,000 giant Moai statues, some standing 33 feet tall and weighing tens of tons. The story of how these statues were created and why many were eventually toppled continues to fascinate people to this day. The history of Rapa Nui was first recorded in 1722 when the Dutch explorer Jacob Roggeveen landed on the island on Easter Sunday and named it Easter Island. He described seeing towering stone statues with local people kneeling before them as if they were gods. But just a few centuries later, most of the Moai had been toppled onto the dry grass. So what really happened on this island? According to archaeologists, most of the Moai statues were carved at an extinct volcano called Rano Raraku. 95% of the Moai were made from a type of compressed volcanic ash that is soft and easy to carve, while a few others, like the famous Hoa Hakananaya at the British Museum, were made from much harder basalt stone. Some statues also wear red stone hats, which are believed to represent the hair and spiritual power of tribal leaders. The greatest challenge, though, was how the Rapa Nui people, with only stone tools and ropes, could move these massive stones, some weighing up to 86 tons across the island's rugged terrain. One of the best-known theories is that the ancient islanders used ropes to walk the statues. They would stand a statue upright, tie ropes to both sides, and then rock it back and forth, inching it forward until it reached its final location. Modern experiments using 5-ton replicas have shown that this method is possible with just a few dozen people. Still, Rapa Nui legends say the Moai walked themselves, moved by the mana, spiritual power, of their chiefs, offering a mystical explanation for something that seems impossible even now. Others believe the statues were moved on logs or rollers, and that this could have led to the island's deforestation. In fact, when the first people arrived around the year 1200, Rapa Nui was covered with towering palm forests. By the 18th century, the island was nearly barren, possibly due to expanding agriculture or the need for timber to transport the Moai. Another big question is why the construction of the Moai suddenly stopped. When Europeans arrived in 1722, many statues still lay unfinished at the Rano Raraku quarry, including El Gigante, a colossal statue more than 70 feet tall and weighing nearly 200 tons, which was never completed. Some researchers believe that war, disease, or the collapse of resources after deforestation led to the downfall of Rapa Nui's civilization. Rapa Nui's history also has its share of tragedy. After contact with Europeans, the island was ravaged by disease and the slave trade. The population dropped from thousands to just 111 people by 1877. Most of the Moai were toppled, perhaps due to conflict or because the people lost faith in their gods. Some statues, like Hoa Hakananaya, were taken away and are still at the center of heated debate about whether they should be returned to Rapa Nui. Today, Rapa Nui is a UNESCO World Heritage Site that attracts thousands of visitors every year. Many Moai have been restored, thanks to the efforts of local communities and archaeologists. Still, new challenges like climate change and wildfires have destroyed hundreds of statues, threatening this precious legacy. The mystery of the Sanxingdui bronzes. In 1929, in a quiet village in Sichuan province, China, a farmer was digging an irrigation ditch when he unexpectedly unearthed some jade and stone fragments with very unusual shapes. He had no idea that he had just stumbled upon traces of a civilization that was almost lost to history. But it wasn't until 1986, when brickworkers discovered two massive ritual pits, that the world truly began to pay attention. In these two pits, archaeologists found more than 1,000 unique artifacts: giant bronze masks with strangely protruding eyes, human statues standing over 8.5 feet tall, a 4-meter bronze tree with birds perched on its branches, along with hundreds of items made from gold and jade. All of these belong to the Sanxingdui culture, a civilization that existed from around 2700 to 1000 BCE, contemporary with the Shang dynasty in northern China. But unlike the Shang, the people of Sanxingdui left behind no writing or records, making these bronze artifacts the only keys we have to unlocking the mysteries of this ancient kingdom. The artifacts from Sanxingdui look like nothing else ever found in ancient China. The most striking is a large bronze mask unearthed in 2021 with eyes that bulge outward and enormous ears, appearing almost godlike or supernatural. Archaeologists believe these masks were once mounted on wooden poles or worn by people during ancestor transformation rituals. Some masks even have traces of red paint on their lips and marks near the ears, as if they had been awakened to take part in special ceremonies. Another remarkable bronze statue stands 8.5 feet tall, depicting a figure with two massive bracelets and cupped hands, as if holding a sacred object. In 2019, a new round of excavations at Sanxingdui led to even more astonishing discoveries. 6 more ritual pits were found near the original 2. And between 2020 and 2022, archaeologists brought to light over 13,000 new artifacts. Among them were a gold mask weighing half a kilogram, the oldest piece of silk ever found in Sichuan, and a strange bronze statue with a human head and snake's body. The head of the excavation team believes that silk was also used in rituals to bridge the human and divine worlds. However, what makes Sanxingdui even more mysterious is that most of the artifacts were deliberately smashed or burned before being buried. Many archaeologists think this was part of religious ceremonies or offerings to ancestors, but no one knows for sure. And no one has explained why, around 1100 BCE, the entire city, covering more than 3.6 square kilometers, was suddenly abandoned. The true meaning of Sanxingdui is still debated. Some scholars believe it was merely a trading center heavily influenced by the Shang or Southeast Asian cultures, not an independent kingdom. Others point to artifacts like the human-headed snake statues and ancient ritual wine vessels as evidence of cultural mixing with the Zhou dynasty. There are even bold theories suggesting that the large-eyed, big-nosed masks are connected to groups from Central Asia or ancient India, though there's still no solid proof. Today, Sanxingdui is being nominated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, with a modern museum displaying its dazzling archaeological treasures. Excavations are ongoing, but the question of why the Sanxingdui civilization vanished still lingers. Were these ritual pits a final prayer before disaster, or the sign of a civilization transitioning into a new era? The mystery of the Olmec colossal heads. In 1862, a farmer clearing land discovered a large stone jutting out of the ground. When he dug deeper, he realized it was a human face carved in stone, standing over 5 feet tall, with striking features, thick lips, a broad nose, and deeply set eyes. This was the first recorded Olmec colossal head. Since then, a total of 17 such heads have been found. They date from around 1400 to 900 BCE and are among the most remarkable legacies of the Olmec civilization, the first great culture that laid the groundwork for both the Maya and the Aztec. The Olmec heads are awe-inspiring in their sheer size. They range from over a meter to more than 3 meters in height and can weigh anywhere from 6 to 50 tons. All were carved from basalt, a hard volcanic rock quarried from the Tuxtla Mountains, sometimes more than 90 miles from where the statues were erected. What makes this even more extraordinary is that the Olmec had neither the wheel nor metal tools. Archaeologists believe they likely floated the stones downriver on wooden rafts, then rolled them overland on wooden logs. Each statue could have required up to 1,500 people working for months on end. To carve the heads, Olmec artisans used even harder stones like jade or obsidian, and sometimes even polished the surfaces with wet sand and reeds to create the lifelike facial details. What adds to the mystery is that each head is unique, with different facial features and headdresses that never repeat. Some are decorated with jaguar claws, while others display geometric designs. This has sparked many theories about their purpose. Some scholars believe the heads are portraits of Olmec kings, carved after their deaths, with the headdress showing their power or their roles in the sacred ball game of Mesoamerica. Others think the heads may have been connected to sacrificial rituals, especially since the backs of some statues are flat, like an altar. Many Olmec heads also carry strange stories about their fate. Some were deliberately broken or moved from their original positions, perhaps to strip power from a deceased ruler, or to mark a shift in authority within society. In 2009, at La Venta, 3 members of a religious cult poured salt and oil over the heads, believing in some ancient ritual. Sadly, this damaged the statues. There was once a controversial theory suggesting an African connection because of the thick lips and wide noses seen on the heads. However, modern research has shown that these features are common among the indigenous people of Tabasco and Veracruz even today. Archaeologists agree that the heads are a purely Mesoamerican creation, born from the hands and minds of the Olmec. Today, Olmec heads are displayed in museums across Mexico, drawing crowds of visitors. Some replicas have even been sent abroad as icons of ancient culture, yet their true mystery endures. Why did the Olmec invest so much effort into creating these enormous statues? Are they spiritual symbols or the mark of unique rituals? San Lorenzo has faded away for almost 2,900 years, but the heads still stand, silent giants beneath the sun and wind of Veracruz. They remain a testament to the creativity, power, and unresolved mysteries of a civilization that helped shape the history of Mesoamerica. The mystery of the Los Lunas Decalogue stone. In 1933, on a dry hillside about 35 miles south of the town of Los Lunas, archaeologist Frank Hibben from the University of New Mexico was led to a massive basalt boulder weighing around 80 tons. The stone sat halfway up the slope at an elevation of over 400 feet, and one smooth face of it was completely inscribed with 9 lines of strange writing. When Hibben arrived, the boulder was covered in lichen and the marks of time, making the inscriptions nearly impossible to read. But upon closer study, he realized these were characters resembling Paleo-Hebrew, a form of ancient Hebrew script dating back to around the 10th century BCE. After translation, it was revealed that the inscription was essentially a summary of the 10 Commandments, including 4 references to God, as in Judaism. The stone immediately stirred up controversy. If it truly was an ancient relic, it would suggest that Semitic people reached the Americas long before Columbus, challenging the entire established record of history. But the mystery didn't end there. The characters carved on the boulder are a curious mix, mostly Paleo-Hebrew, but with some resembling Greek letters. This combination hints at a later time period, possibly after the era of Alexander the Great. Linguist Cyrus Gordon once proposed that this might have been a large decalogue tablet, like those once placed at the gates of homes or synagogues. However, other experts disagreed, pointing out that the wording and expressions did not match Samaritan traditions and lacked certain key lines about building a temple on Mount Gerizim. Many researchers have questioned the authenticity of the stone. Some scholars believe it could simply be a modern hoax. They note that the inscription is full of grammatical mistakes, odd punctuation, and a random mix of characters that don't fit any known ancient text. There are even stories claiming that 2 students from the University of New Mexico carved the stone in 1930 as a prank on Hibben. Other archaeological teams, after examining the site in 1953, concluded that the natural patina on the stone did not fully cover the inscriptions, suggesting that the carvings may have been made recently. Even so, some still defend the idea that the stone is much older than skeptics believe. Geologist George Morehouse once compared the weathering of the Los Lunas inscription to modern graffiti on the mountaintop and saw a marked difference, suggesting the stone could be anywhere from 500 to 2,000 years old. Researcher Barry Fell argued that some of the punctuation actually matches ancient texts, though his views have not been widely accepted. So, what is the Los Lunas Decalogue stone really? Is it an ancient Semitic relic lost in the Americas or a clever 20th century hoax? Whether genuine or fake, the Los Lunas stone continues to attract mystery lovers, researchers, and curious visitors who hike up the hillside to see it for themselves. The mystery of the Costa Rican jade figurines. Imagine standing inside the Jade Museum in San Jose, Costa Rica, surrounded by tiny jade figurines, each only a few centimeters tall but carved with remarkable skill. Some take the shape of people wearing feathered headdresses, others are owls with large, round eyes, or mysterious creatures that are half human, half animal. These works belong to the indigenous cultures of Costa Rica, dating from around 500 BCE to 700 CE. They were not just ornaments, but symbols of power, belief, and a connection to the gods. Yet there's something especially strange. There is no jade in Costa Rica. The only source of this stone is the Motagua River Valley in Guatemala, more than 600 miles away. So how did these precious blocks of jade ever reach Costa Rica? In 1939, archaeologist Doris Stone began recording jade artifacts in burial sites and ancient villages. By 1977, the Jade Museum was established in San Jose and now houses nearly 7,000 artifacts. These jade figurines were mainly jewelry worn by the elite and tribal leaders. One popular style is the axe god pendant, shaped like a person or bird carved onto an axe blade. Others are carved in the form of owls, frogs, or snakes, symbols of fertility and good fortune. The ancient technique for working jade remains a major mystery. Jade is extremely hard, rating between 6 and 7 on the Mohs scale, so it required complex methods to shape. The ancient Costa Ricans developed a unique string saw technique using cord and abrasive powder to carve curved lines into the stone. Some pieces, like the feathered headdress pendant in the Denver Museum, are thought to have taken years to complete. The finest works used blue-green jade from Guatemala, while more common versions were made from local greenstones like serpentine. The presence of jade in Costa Rica points to an extensive trade network stretching from Central America down to Costa Rica from the 3rd century BCE to the 8th century CE. Traders may have bartered with the Maya or Olmec to bring jade back and have it crafted into figurines. When trade centers like the Mayan city of Copan collapsed around 700 CE, the jade supply dried up and was gradually replaced by gold. Not everyone agrees on the true meaning of these jade statues. Some scholars believe they were religious icons meant to connect with the gods or ancestors. Others emphasize their social role, viewing the feathered headdress figures as symbols of leadership and power. There are even theories that their style was influenced by South American cultures, though no archaeological evidence has confirmed this idea yet. The mystery of the Eltanin antenna. Eltanin was no ordinary ship. Once a US Navy icebreaker, it was later transformed into the first oceanographic research vessel devoted to exploring the Antarctic. The Eltanin's mission was to collect seafloor samples and capture images of landscapes no one had ever seen before, deep beneath thousands of meters of water. On one such mission, while photographing at a depth of nearly 4,000 meters, the ship captured an image that stunned both the scientific community and the public. That photograph revealed a strange object standing upright on the desolate ocean floor. It was about 1.6 meters tall, shaped like a vertical column with evenly spaced branches, each ending in a small sphere. At a glance, it looked like a modern television antenna or some kind of advanced technology. At the time, there was no way for any man-made device to be placed at such depth. So, what exactly was this object? The photo quickly appeared in the New Zealand Herald under the headline "Mystery Image from the Ocean Floor" and immediately sparked widespread speculation. Many UFO researchers and conspiracy theorists believed this was an alien artifact, possibly placed on the seafloor to monitor Earth or communicate with other civilizations. Some even thought the antenna's location sat on an ancient planetary grid tied to mysterious cycles of the Earth, and connected it to numbers like 144, which some claimed were linked to the speed of light. Not everyone, however, bought into the supernatural theories. In 1971, oceanographers Bruce Heezen and Charles Hollister wrote in their book, The Face of the Deep, that the object in the photo was actually a carnivorous sponge called Cladorhiza concrescens. They pointed out that this species looks remarkably similar to the Eltanin antenna. In fact, an illustration by Alexander Agassiz from 1888 shows this sponge looking almost exactly like a modern microwave tower. Even so, not everyone was satisfied with this explanation. Why hadn't the Eltanin science team recognized it as a sponge right away? Moreover, these sponges typically live in clusters, while the Eltanin object stood alone. Its form seemed too symmetrical, too solid, and far more like a piece of technology than a natural creature. The story only grew more mysterious when, in 2003, researcher Tom DeMary confirmed that the object had indeed been identified as a sponge, but this information seemed to circulate only within scientific circles. That left some people wondering, was there an effort to keep the true nature of the Eltanin antenna hidden? To this day, the object has never been found again. The area where it was photographed remains one of the harshest and most inaccessible regions on the planet. Some believe that if it was a mysterious piece of technology, it may have been removed or concealed. So, what was the Eltanin antenna after all? Was it a misunderstood deep-sea creature or a lost technological device? The mystery of the Russian megaspheres. In the summer of 2016, on Russia's Champ Island, a group of miners made a startling discovery. While mining for coal, they stumbled upon dozens of massive stone spheres scattered across the frozen ground. Some of these spheres measured up to 4 meters in diameter, making them larger than almost any naturally occurring stone spheres known to science. What truly amazed people was how smooth their surfaces were, almost perfectly polished, as if someone had meticulously crafted them. A few had cracked open, revealing concentric layers inside, making them look like giant marbles that had formed millions of years ago. Locals called them Seda, and soon, tales of the Russian megaspheres spread far and wide. Champ Island is an incredibly harsh place, where temperatures can drop to -30 degrees Celsius and ice and snow blanket the land nearly all year round. But in the brief summer, when the ice melts, these giant spheres appear on the barren earth. News of the discovery quickly attracted scientists from the Russian Institute of Geology. They determined that the spheres were the result of a process known as concretion, mineral deposits forming within ancient marine sediments. On the seafloor millions of years ago, minerals like calcite and silica gradually built up around a tiny core, creating concentric rock layers that, over ages, formed perfect spheres. This process can take millions of years. While this geological phenomenon is seen in other parts of the world, like the Moai boulders of New Zealand, the stones on Champ Island are remarkable for both their size and their numbers. Many are twice as large as those found elsewhere, and some seem almost deliberately arranged, raising questions. Could nature alone create something so flawless, or might there have been a guiding hand? Within weeks, conspiracy theories began circulating on social media and mystery websites. Some people compared the megaspheres to the Klerksdorp spheres in South Africa, which are believed by some to be billions of years old and even show signs of having been shaped by intelligent hands. Geologist Andrei Ivanov, who studied the site on Champ Island, once remarked, "They look too perfect to be only a product of nature. But if not, then who made them? And how?" Questions like these only added to the mystique of the megaspheres. Still, many scientists remain cautious, suggesting that after millions of years, erosion simply brought these spheres to the surface. This is just one of countless natural wonders created by our planet, they say. The story grew stranger in 2018 when an amateur expedition traveled to Champ Island to see the megaspheres with their own eyes. They reported that tapping gently on some of the spheres produced a hollow, bell-like ringing sound. Some theories went even further, suggesting the spheres were relics of an ancient civilization or arranged for special ceremonies. Others asked, if these are truly natural, why do they sit in clusters, sometimes forming circles? Further research into the megaspheres has been limited by the island's remote location and brutal climate. To complicate matters, Franz Josef Land, where Champ Island is located, was once a secret Soviet military zone, the site of some of the world's largest nuclear bomb tests, including the Tsar Bomba explosion. This history has only deepened the mystery, with many believing that the true origins of these stone spheres may still be hidden from the world. The Red Deer Cave People. In 1979, inside a small cave in Guangxi Province, China, a petroleum geologist made an unexpected discovery, a block of unusual sediment. Inside that block were human bones, animal bones, charcoal, and burnt clay. Realizing this could be important, he sent the whole block to the Yunnan Provincial Museum in Kunming for further research. 10 years later, in 1989, archaeologists began digging at another cave near the city of Mengzi, also in Yunnan. This cave became known as Red Deer Cave. As they dug through the earth, they found more human bones, stone tools, and a large number of burned red deer bones. These signs showed that the people who once lived here hunted and ate red deer, so they were named the Red Deer Cave People. But the real mystery only began in 2008, when a group of international scientists, led by Darren Curnow and Ji Shuiping, started a deeper investigation. They determined that these bones were between 17,800 and 11,500 years old, meaning these people lived at the very end of the Ice Age. What was strange was that the skeletons had many features similar to ancient humans: flat skulls, wide noses, jaws that stuck out, thick brow ridges, and dense skull bones. These traits closely resembled Homo erectus, an ancient human species that had lived in Africa more than 1 million years ago. But the Red Deer Cave people actually lived at the same time as modern humans, just as the first farming cultures were beginning in China. In 2010, archaeologists found a small thigh bone with a thin outer layer, just like the thigh bones of Homo erectus. The person it belonged to would have weighed only about 50 kilograms. When these findings were published in 2012, the scientific community was stunned. Darren Kerno and his team suggested this might be a new kind of human, or the descendants of an ancient human group that survived because they were cut off in the mountains of southwest China. Some thought these people could be the result of mixing between modern humans and another ancient group like the Denisovans, a mysterious type of human only known from DNA, who once lived in many places across Asia. Another theory suggested that the highlands became a safe place for ancient people, similar to how the hobbits survived for so long on the island of Flores in Indonesia. But not everyone agreed. Marta Mirazon-Lar, an evolutionary biologist at Cambridge University, thought that the Red Deer Cave people were simply modern humans with unusual features that developed in a small community. She said that modern humans can be very diverse, and strange features do not have to mean a new species. But in 2015, when the research team continued analyzing the thigh bone, they found it was outside the range of variation for modern humans, suggesting an older origin. Some other scientists thought this was proof of a very early migration from Africa, even before modern humans spread widely across Asia some 60,000 years ago. Everything changed in 2022 when Chinese scientists managed to sequence part of the DNA from the Maludong skull. The results were surprising. The Red Deer Cave people were actually modern humans, closely related to both present-day East Asians and to Native Americans. The skull belonged to a woman, and she might have been an ancestor of the first people who crossed the Bering Strait into the Americas. Still, the mystery remains. If the Red Deer Cave people were modern humans, why did they have features that look like those of ancient humans who had already disappeared? If they were hybrids or a new species, how did they survive next to modern cultures at the end of the Ice Age? This story reminds us that the history of humanity is full of complexity, and that in Asia, many mysterious caves still hide secrets no one has yet uncovered. The Indus Valley Script, an unsolved mystery. More than 4,000 years ago, across the vast lands surrounding the Indus River, a great ancient civilization once flourished. This was the home of large cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, where streets, houses, and drainage systems were laid out with a level of planning far ahead of most civilizations of their time. And yet, there is one thing that archaeologists and historians still cannot explain: the writing system of the Indus people. Since the late 19th century, when archaeologists first discovered small stone seals engraved with mysterious symbols, people have been asking the same questions. What do these signs mean? And what stories do they tell about a once thriving culture? These seals are often no larger than the palm of a hand, with surfaces carved with images of animals, humans, and a series of strange symbols. So far, researchers have collected more than 4,000 such seals, but not a single one has ever been read. The symbols on the Indus seals are truly unique. They are unlike any ancient writing system known to us, not Egyptian, not Mesopotamian, not Chinese. Most lines contain only 3 to 5 characters, sometimes more, but there are no long passages or clear narratives. These symbols are carved with care, showing that ancient people placed great importance on recording information, even if today we still cannot understand the meaning of each character. Many theories have been proposed to unlock this mystery. Some scholars believe it could be a kind of syllabic writing, similar to Sumerian or Egyptian hieroglyphs. Others think the symbols represent concepts much like the ideograms of ancient Chinese. There is even a theory that the Indus symbols were never meant as true writing, but instead were marks for identifying goods or families, used in trade or religious ceremonies. Over the past century, many attempts have been made to decipher the script. One of the biggest challenges is that no one has ever found a bilingual inscription, like the Rosetta Stone, which helped decode Egyptian hieroglyphs. Also, the limited number of symbols and the short length of the inscriptions make it even harder to compare and analyze the characters. What is strange is that despite such a developed civilization, after the Indus civilization collapsed around 1900 BC, all traces of their script and language seem to have vanished completely. Many researchers believe that if the Indus script is ever deciphered, we will finally learn more about their daily lives, their beliefs, and perhaps even the reason why such a powerful civilization disappeared so suddenly. But until that day comes, those small seals with their mysterious symbols remain silent, still keeping the story of one of history's most enigmatic civilizations locked away. Jiroft, the mysterious civilization by the Halil River. In early 2001, in the Halil River Valley of southeastern Iran, a great flood changed everything. This usually peaceful river swept away layers of earth, uncovering a secret that had been buried for thousands of years. As the waters receded, a vast ancient cemetery with thousands of graves appeared, but many of these tombs had already been dug up by looters. Strange treasures soon began to surface on the antiquities market: delicate jade bracelets, intricately carved drinking vessels, game boards, and weapons studded with gemstones. No one knew where these artifacts came from until Iranian authorities stepped in. By the end of 2001, law enforcement had arrested a number of smugglers and seized a large collection of artifacts in Tehran. The trail led straight back to the Halil Valley, near the city of Jiroft, a quiet region not far from the Persian Gulf. When archaeologists arrived, they were shocked to realize this was no ordinary burial ground. Beneath the earth were traces of a Bronze Age civilization, thriving from around 2500 to 2200 BCE, with developed cities and perhaps even its own independent writing system. Not far away, two artificial mounds offered new secrets, evidence of a vast fortress and an ancient ceremonial structure. What archaeologists found at Jiroft stunned the world. A chlorite stone vessel depicted a two-horned figure wrestling with snakes, a scene reminiscent of ancient Sumerian mythology. A heavy stone, perhaps once used as a weight, was carved with images of people taming wild animals, a common theme of the Bronze Age. Cylindrical jars modeled after palace facades, with columns and miniature ziggurats, closely resembled architecture from ancient Mesopotamia. Archaeologist Yusuf Majidzadeh even suggested that Jiroft might be the legendary land of Arata, described in Sumerian legends as a place of great wealth. He pointed to an ancient brick, engraved with geometric symbols, possibly the oldest Elamite writing ever found, and speculated this could be the true origin of cuneiform script. However, many scholars, such as Oscar Muscarella, argued that these claims still need more solid evidence. Jiroft becomes even more fascinating when you consider its scale. Konar Sandal B rises up to 21 meters high. Beneath it, the ruins of a massive two-story fortress with brick walls up to 11 meters thick. Konar Sandal A, less than a mile away, contains a ceremonial building and may once have been a grand temple. Since 2014, international archaeological teams from Italy, France, and Germany have come to Jiroft and discovered evidence of residential neighborhoods and ancient workshops. Most striking of all, the cylinder seals found here are identical to those in Mesopotamia, hinting at a sophisticated system of management and trade. Yet not everyone believes that Jiroft was an independent civilization. Some researchers argue that Jiroft was simply a trading center, heavily influenced by neighboring cultures such as Elam to the west or the Indus Valley to the east. The cross-cultural artifacts found here support this view. Despite ongoing debates among scholars, the mystery of Jiroft remains intact. If this place truly was the cradle of a great civilization, why was it forgotten for 5,000 years? Perhaps the flood of 2001 was a fateful turning point, accidentally bringing the secrets of a long-lost world back into the light. Jiroft reminds us that human history is always full of hidden corners and unanswered questions. Sometimes, all it takes is a sudden flood to reveal a civilization that once thrived and then disappeared into the shadows of forgotten mysteries. The Tartaria tablets, an unsolved mystery in Eastern Europe. In the summer of 1961, in a small village in the Transylvania region of Romania, archaeologist Nicolae Vlasa and his team were excavating a Neolithic settlement. As they dug deeper into a ritual pit, a strange scene slowly appeared. There, they discovered 26 clay and stone figurines, a bracelet made from seashells, and the charred remains of an adult. Initial assessment suggested this person may have been a shaman or someone of special significance. But what truly stunned the team were 3 small clay tablets, each only about 6 centimeters long, carved with mysterious symbols. Notably, one rectangular tablet and one round tablet had holes drilled through them, as if they had once been worn or hung up. These clay tablets, now known as the Tartaria tablets, sent shockwaves through the archaeological world. The symbols on them looked like an early form of writing. One tablet features an animal with horns beside what appears to be a tree or a leafy branch. The other two are filled with abstract symbols and various geometric shapes. What is especially remarkable is how closely these symbols resemble those found in the Vinca symbol system, from a prehistoric culture that once stretched across Romania from around 4,500 to 3,700 BCE. But what truly makes the Tartaria tablets stand out is the debate over their age. Based on the artifacts and the soil layer where they were found, some scientists believe these tablets could date back to around 5,300 BCE. If this is true, they would predate both Sumerian cuneiform and Egyptian hieroglyphs by at least 1,000 years, meaning Eastern Europe, not Mesopotamia, might have been the birthplace of the world's first writing system. However, not everyone agrees with this theory. When Vlasa sent the tablets to the Cluj Museum for preservation, they were fired at high temperatures, which accidentally destroyed any possibility of direct carbon-14 dating. This has led to intense debate among scholars over the true age of the tablets. The mystery deepened as researchers began comparing the Tartaria tablets to similar artifacts. Some linguists have suggested they could be related to Linear A script in Crete, or might even be the prototype for writing on the island of Cyprus. Yet, to this day, no one has been able to decipher the symbols. The Vinca system records around 700 different signs, almost as many as Egyptian hieroglyphs, leading some linguists, like Harman, to believe this was indeed a true writing system, used for recording trade transactions or rituals. However, the inscriptions are all very short, making them extremely difficult to decode. There are even bolder theories. Some believe the Tartaria tablets are evidence of a hidden civilization, one with writing that predates Sumer but was forgotten or deliberately erased from history. While there is no solid proof for this idea, it continues to fuel curiosity about an ancient Eastern Europe that may have once flourished and then faded into obscurity. Some have even tried to link the symbols to ancient Magyar, but these ideas face strong opposition due to lack of evidence. The 10,000-year-old dwarf skeleton. The 10,000-year-old dwarf skeleton found in China has raised questions that scientists still cannot fully answer. The story begins in 2007 in a region near the Yellow River in east-central China. Here, archaeologists were excavating an ancient burial site where they uncovered a number of skeletons belonging to the Yangshao culture, dating back about 5,000 to 7,000 years. All of these skeletons had been carefully buried, with hands placed on their chests as a sign of communal respect. But standing out among these ordinary remains was one small, unusual skeleton. This person was laid to rest separately, with both hands hidden behind the back, almost as if to set them apart from the rest. After studying the remains, scientists determined that this skeleton was even older than the others around it. This person had lived at the end of the Neolithic era, roughly 10,000 years ago. What caught the archaeologists' attention was the shape of the body. This was an individual with proportionate dwarfism, meaning the body was small, but all the proportions were balanced, different from the more common forms of dwarfism today. Based on the teeth and bones, this was a young adult, about 16 to 20 years old at the time of death. The bones were thin and showed signs of osteoporosis, suggesting that life was far from easy. Among the tens of thousands of ancient skeletons discovered around the world, there have been fewer than 40 cases of dwarfism ever recorded, and this is one of the oldest known to science. This left researchers puzzled. How could someone so small and physically weak survive in a hunter-gatherer society where physical strength was almost essential for survival? To find the answer, scientists spent more than a decade studying the case. The team X-rayed the bones, examined the teeth, and analyzed the physical development in detail. They concluded that the individual suffered from hypothyroidism or pituitary dwarfism from an early age, resulting in a small stature. But how did this person really live in a society where being different could mean being cast out? The burial itself raised more questions. The hands hidden behind the back. Was this a special ritual or a sign of exclusion? Being buried with the community could mean this person was still accepted, or perhaps even held a special place in society. Some scholars speculate that in ancient China, people who were different might have been valued for their intelligence or special abilities. Was this person a shaman, or did they have a spiritual role? Another theory is that the dwarf skeleton was the result of genetics in a small, isolated community where hereditary conditions were more likely. Yet later, historical records show that little people were sometimes treated unfairly or even enslaved in royal courts. Beyond the scientific research, bold ideas have emerged. Some have linked the skeleton to legends of little people in Asian folklore. Others have suggested this might be evidence of an isolated ancient group, or even the remains of a different human species. Even though these theories lack hard evidence, they raise an important question. How many mysteries in human history have we yet to discover? What's truly remarkable is that the 10,000-year-old dwarf skeleton is not just an archaeological artifact. It is a window into the diversity of ancient humanity. The fact that such a small individual could live and be buried alongside the community shows that society back then may have been more accepting than we imagine. Perhaps the stories of willpower and the acceptance of difference have existed far longer than the written record. The lost city of Pavlopetri. More than 5,000 years ago, when the world's first civilizations were just emerging, a bustling city once stood on the shores of Greece. Then, suddenly, the sea swallowed this place, dragging its roads, houses, and tombs down to the ocean floor. This was Pavlopetri, the oldest submerged city ever discovered by humankind. The story begins in 1904 when a Greek geologist first noticed unusual lines beneath the water near Vatica Bay on the southern edge of the Peloponnese Peninsula. But it wasn't until 1967, when marine archaeologist Nicholas Fleming returned to survey the site, that the secret of Pavlopetri truly came to light. Just a few meters from the shore, at a depth of about 3 to 4 meters, lay the remains of a city buried by the sea for thousands of years. In 1968, a team from Cambridge University mapped the site in detail and uncovered a network of streets and more than 37 ancient tombs. Based on pottery shards, stone tools, and other artifacts, they determined that Pavlopetri existed as far back as 3,500 BC, making it the oldest underwater city ever found. What makes Pavlopetri remarkable is its nearly perfect state of preservation. Beneath layers of sand and seawater, the city still holds a clearly planned street grid, 2-story houses with gardens, and a large central square. Across more than 9 acres, archaeologists also found an advanced water system complete with channels and pipes. Pottery from Crete, weaving frames, and tools showed that Pavlopetri was once a thriving center for trade and textiles. But the greatest mystery is why such a carefully built city was swallowed by the sea and never rebuilt. For decades, scientists have tried to answer this question. In 2009, a research team from the University of Nottingham, working with the Greek Ministry of Culture, used sonar and underwater robots to create a 3D map of the entire city. They uncovered thousands of square meters of new structures, including grand halls and streets never before recorded. These discoveries confirmed that the city developed continuously from the Neolithic era to the Mycenaean age, but the reason for Pavlopetri's submersion remains unsolved. Many theories have been suggested. Some believe a series of earthquakes, especially around 1000 BC or 375 AD, caused the ground to sink and the city to flood. The Peloponnese is famous for seismic activity, which supports this idea. Others argue that rising sea levels and subsiding land slowly drowned the city. When Pavlopetri was first built, it stood about 3 meters above sea level, but by 1200 BC it was already at risk of flooding. There are even those who link Pavlopetri to the legend of Atlantis, since this city predates Plato's story of the lost continent. But most scholars see this as just a fascinating coincidence. Some have suggested economic collapse or political upheaval, like the Dorian invasion, may have driven residents away before the final inundation. Pavlopetri is not just a relic of the past. It is a window into a world from 5,000 years ago. Here, we see a complex society and a thriving maritime economy. The urban planning and water systems prove that this was a highly organized community, challenging the idea that people of that era only lived in simple villages. Yet the mystery remains. Why was a bustling city abandoned, never to be rebuilt? Did its people escape disaster, or were they swept away by the sea forever? And how many other ancient cities are still lying silent beneath the waves, waiting to be found? Today, Pavlopetri faces threats from pollution, illegal artifact hunting, and the impact of tourism. Even under UNESCO protection, this city stands as a reminder of the fragility of our past. The Gosford glyphs, strange symbols in the Australian bush. Hidden deep in a narrow sandstone cleft within Brisbane Water National Park, more than 300 strange symbols resembling Egyptian hieroglyphs have appeared. They tell stories of ships, gods, and a lost prince stranded in a faraway land. But how did these symbols end up in Australia, thousands of miles from Giza? This is a mystery that has sparked debate among researchers around the world. The story began in 1975, when a local surveyor discovered odd markings in the rocks near Karyong, about 60 kilometers north of Sydney. The area was already well known for Aboriginal rock art by the Guringai people, but what Dash found was entirely different. Etched onto 2 sandstone walls, each 3.5 meters high, were more than 300 characters that looked like Egyptian hieroglyphs, including images of the god Anubis, the Ankh symbol, ships, and even the name of King Khufu, the builder of the Giza pyramids. Dash even noticed that every time he returned, new symbols seemed to have appeared. This only deepened the question: was this an ancient site or a modern prank that had been added to over the years? News of the Gosford glyphs spread quickly. The symbols were carved in a narrow rock crevice, accessible only by climbing or scaffolding. The engravings tell of an Egyptian fleet caught in a storm, survivors landing on an unfamiliar shore and recording their story. They depicted animals like birds, dogs, owls, and hybrid human-animal figures, very much in the style of ancient Egyptian art. Yet the symbols were inconsistent. Some were faded and worn, while others looked freshly carved. Strikingly, the carvings mixed symbols from many different periods, including ones that only appeared more than 2,000 years after King Khufu. Attempts to decode these symbols have continued for decades, but with no definitive result. In 1983, rock art conservator David Lambert observed that some of the carvings were only a few months old. Egyptologists like Professor Boyo Okinga from Macquarie University dismissed their authenticity, pointing out that the glyphs did not follow Egyptian grammar and mixed symbols from many eras in a jumbled layout. Still, there are supporters who believe this is evidence of an Egyptian expedition to Australia 4,500 years ago, even though no other ancient Egyptian artifacts have ever been found on the continent. There are many theories about the origins of the Gosford glyphs. Some suggest they were made by Australian soldiers who had served in Egypt during World War I, carving the symbols as a prank or a memorial. Others think they were created in the 1970s or 1980s by a particular individual. Alan Dash himself once witnessed someone carving the rock in 1984. Supporters of their authenticity point out that some glyphs show a deep knowledge of ancient Egyptian culture, such as the depiction of Thoth as a baboon, something little known in the West in the early 20th century. Some have tried to link the glyphs to Aboriginal people, but the style is completely different. There are even theories involving aliens or lost civilizations, though none have any real evidence. The Gosford glyphs leave us with big questions about history and truth. If this is a hoax, why would someone go to such lengths to carve over 300 symbols in a remote rocky gorge over many years? If it is an ancient monument, how could Egyptians have crossed thousands of miles to Australia without leaving a trace elsewhere? Whatever the truth, the Gosford glyphs are a reminder that history is always full of unsolved mysteries. And sometimes, the most mysterious things are also the most fragile. The Koso artifact, the mystery of the spark plug in ancient stone. Thousands of years ago, when humans were still just hunter-gatherers, no one could have imagined that one day, in the ancient stone layers of the Coso Mountains in California, a mystery would emerge that would spark endless debate among scientists and archaeology enthusiasts alike. On February 13, 1961, 3 rock hunters, Wallace Lane, Virginia Maxey, and Mike Meixel, stumbled upon a strange stone while searching for quartz on a mountain over 1,300 meters high near Olancha, California. At first, they thought it was just an ordinary geode, but when Meixel tried to cut the stone in half, his diamond saw nearly broke, having hit something incredibly hard inside. Instead of a sparkling crystal, they found an object that looked like a spark plug, a white ceramic cylinder surrounding a shiny metal rod, all encased in hardened clay and a fossilized shell. Later, X-ray images revealed an almost complete internal structure, a metal spring, a copper ring, and a ceramic core, all reminiscent of an early 20th century automotive spark plug. The strange thing was that the outer clay was believed to be up to 500,000 years old, predating even the appearance of modern humans. The Koso artifact quickly became a topic of heated controversy. The stone itself was a chunk of petrified clay containing a soft hexagonal layer around a ceramic cylinder. At the center was a metal rod, just 2 millimeters thick, which had not rusted despite being encased in rock for so long. Surrounding it were copper rings, still intact. All these details raise the question: if it was a spark plug, why was it found inside a rock that seemed hundreds of thousands of years old? And if it was some ancient technology, who could have made it? After its discovery, the Koso artifact was sent to an unnamed laboratory for analysis where X-rays confirmed its spark plug-like structure. But the object was never examined by independent experts. After 1969, the actual artifact vanished, leaving behind only a few blurry magazine photos and inconsistent accounts. This only deepened the mystery surrounding the Koso artifact. Over the decades that followed, many scientists tried to explain what happened. Some geologists suggested it was simply a modern spark plug, encased in clay through a natural process called concretion, where soil and minerals quickly accumulate around a foreign object. In fact, several other metal objects have been found nearby, encased in similar material at Owens Lake, after only a few decades. Skeptics argued that the fossilized shell was simply a misunderstanding, since no official scientific report has ever confirmed the half-million-year age. Still, believers in the out-of-place artifact theory insist that the Koso artifact is proof of advanced technology existing before modern civilization. Others think it's just a hoax or a bizarre coincidence of nature, but whatever the explanation, everyone agrees on one thing: no one can verify the truth since the original object has long since disappeared. Today, the Koso artifact, living on only in photographs and memories, continues to challenge our curiosity. If it truly is a modern spark plug, why was it buried in rock that appears to be hundreds of thousands of years old? If it's a product of ancient technology, why is there no other evidence of such a civilization? And if it's all just a coincidence, how could so many details line up so perfectly? The Koso artifact reminds us that history is always full of unanswered questions. Somewhere, in the wild mountains or deep beneath the earth, there may still be secrets waiting, ready to shatter everything we think we know about the past of our own species. Thank you for joining us on this journey to uncover humanity's greatest mysteries. If you enjoyed these stories, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of the mysteries waiting in our next episodes. See you on the next adventure.